welcome to the last words. An unfamiliar face for you guys as a host. It's my first time hosting. Sorry, Cal, if I make a hash of this, you won't have me back again. I appreciate that. Pleased to be joined, actually, by Serge. Hi, Serge. I hope you're well. By Mike Parrott, and also Phil Brown, who's familiar with you guys. Look, I want to start. I don't want to go down the transfer route. I don't want to go down the Ronaldo route, but I do want to start off by asking a question that has been on my mind for a couple of weeks, and that's about pre-season training, so to speak. I've always felt that, 5-10 years ago when I was doing pre-season, we had 8 weeks off. We came back. We had no ball work for 2 weeks. Today's kind of so-called pre-season, as I see it, the players have 3 weeks off. So the question I want to get to, and I really want to drill down on this because the fans are really split about whether we've had a good pre-season or a bad pre-season. How much does pre-season really matter moving into the new term? Obviously, it's a bit different for our club because we've got a new manager, so players are going to get used to it. Serge, just the opening question to you: how do you feel the pre-seasons have changed, and what's your thoughts on how it really matters now, considering the players only have maybe 2-3 weeks off in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously football as a whole has changed from years ago. Nowadays, obviously players have their own private chefs and their own nutritionists and, all that kind of stuff. So none of that actually kind of stops, it all continues throughout, the off season anyway. So in terms of, I suppose, what changes is, I mean, they've got to get used to a new manager, a new way of playing, a new style of football, and all of that, and what the manager, wants of the players, different drills, that kind of thing. Getting to know maybe new colleagues that they're now working with, new partnerships. I think there's a lot of that. I think also there's something to be said about the psychological break. I think obviously for United anyway, it's been a tough. Well, not just season, but a tough number of seasons for United. So I think it gives them that kind of psychological break away and gives them that kind of clean slate to start again. As I said, under a new manager. So yeah, that's how I kind of see it.
Mike, are you the same, or do you view it a bit differently?
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, it's a bit different these days because we do have the new manager in Erik ten Hag and whatnot. So a lot of our preseason will be more oriented towards learning his system, obviously. But I think it has changed a lot since, obviously, the days of Ferguson. And I'd probably say, since Ferguson, it has changed so much since, because besides the fact that we get a new manager every few years at this rate, it is just completely different. Sports science has changed so much in the last 10 years, let alone since Ferguson originally took over now. And I think I just completely agree with what Serge said, really, is that everything has changed so much more. It's a lot more forward thinking, a lot more scientific and whatnot. So I definitely think preseason isn't as big as it used to be. I think it's more just nailing down certain tweaks of the system and tactics. And obviously it's a bit bigger for us because of Ten Hag currently, but I think normally it has improved quite a lot, and that is just not much of a big gap. As you said, I think we had 2-3 weeks off from the end of the season to pre-season. So yeah, I completely agree with Serge.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that one, Phil?
I think results matter in some sense from building confidence, but it's by probably the least important thing. I mean, first of all, I don't think they've had a bad preseason. They lost 1-0 to Atletico Madrid. What's the disgrace in that? Liverpool lost 4-0 to United in their first preseason game and just battered Manchester City. Right? So it wasn't relevant in terms of their impact on the start of the season. So I think for Ten Hag, preseason and what United really need to get out of preseason are the things that were missing last season. One, the atmosphere inside the football club, the collective atmosphere with the team, the belief that they can be successful. These are really, really important. So also, it's really more about individual development than development as a team, because you want to get people fit. You're asking questions about particular positions. Probably Ten Hag knows his best 7 or 8, but maybe not his best 11. it's a great opportunity for young players to stake a claim and to be in the squad and what have you. But I think other than refining fitness and improving the atmosphere inside the football club, the belief, and there's also another factor here, lads. If we go back to David Moyes' first season, he essentially lost the football club in pre-season because he underestimated the size of the football club. We all know what happened in Bonsai Beach. United lost their first game in that stadium in Thailand, Bangkok. David Moyes' first game in that exact stadium. So it's important for the players to grow respect for Ten Hag, his methods, and also to lay down certain disciplinary measures. Now it's also important that the club remain consistent in applying those measures so that they don't usurp his power and really make him impotent. So I think so far, I mean, they've lost one game in pre-season. What's the disgrace in that?
No, I totally agree. I mean, from my perspective, I've been really impressed with the attitude, actually, more than anything, of the squad of players. It's completely different from what we saw last year. There was no moping around. Players were working out, that extra 10 or 15%. Now, obviously, Ten Hag's got a lot to do with that. They're looking to really impress him. But what do you guys, Serge in particular, what have you noticed that's really raised your eyebrows, knowing the squad that we've got? Knowing the team that played in Oslo yesterday, I would say 8 of those are likely. I think Phil's right and nailed on to start on Sunday against Brighton. What's really raised your eyebrows? What's made you actually think, well, something here has changed?
I think Phil made some really good points. I think the consistency is a big thing in terms of the way the players are playing. I think. I think you've been able to see that the players, can press. It's something that, obviously is critical to the Ten Hag structure of the way players, the way he wants his teams to play. And I think I've seen fitness levels much, much higher than previous years, definitely previous pre-seasons anyway. Some stuff that came out in the media about, players being sick or feeling sick during, trainings or whatever. But I think Ten Hag obviously has noticed that, the fitness regimes weren't up to scratch, especially with the way he wants them to play. So that's one thing that I've definitely noticed is a key improvement in fitness. I think mindset, I think just kind of mentally, the players seem to be, just more optimistic, clean slate, as I mentioned before. Which I think is great. I've also really enjoyed seeing some of the youngsters play. It's actually made me think, previously, we always want these big signings. We always want, these players from other clubs and whatever. And I just sometimes think that we don't look inwards enough sometimes. And I think this preseason to me has highlighted there's a number of players there that could actually stake a claim in the first team, or we could see them play a number of minutes this season. Even players like Zidane Iqbal, he's 19 years old, but he's been one of the shining stars of the preseason tour. Also players like who else? Obviously Garnacho today. Obviously people saw him play. I mean, I'd be really surprised if we didn't see a lot of him during the season. I think it could be Martial and Garnacho. Interchange or whatever. I actually think it could be his breakthrough season, and I really do believe that if Ronaldo does leave and we don't seem to get anyone through, but I think obviously he does want to bulk up with new signings, but I think if we look inwards, I think this preseason tour has definitely taught me that there is players that we have within the club that are more than good enough, and also sadly there's players that I believe that aren't good enough to play for Manchester United, and I think we saw that today with Tahith Chong. In my opinion, I don't think he's good enough to stake a claim for the first team, but it's highlighted all those things, which I think is great.
Excellent. Mike, one of the things that I've noticed, so I'll be interested to get your thoughts on this, is I've noticed a more calmness in our possession and our play. We don't treat the ball like it's a block of lava anymore. We caress it a lot more than what we've done in the last few years. What do you think has brought, because Ten Hag's not known for that type of play, is he? He's designed for his more aggressive approach in his attacking play. What do you think he's brought, or how do you think he's brought that kind of style to us?
I think obviously we're seeing from the players a lot more happiness, to put it easily, is that you're seeing these players play a lot more carefree than they were under Rangnick or even Solskjaer to an extent. I think we can all say Fred has done really, really well in that like number 6 position as more as like the deep lying playmaker. I think he's been a real big standout, and I don't think many people, unless you watched him prior to United, that he wasn't this dictator of play, someone who calmed the game down. If anything, we always thought he was the crazy guy who was just going to absolutely press everyone. But I think Ten Hag has slowed them down a bit. Obviously, he will want them to speed up a bit in regards to their passing. He doesn't want to play really slow tempo, but it's baby steps, isn't it? He's going to want them to get the basics down, and then after that, they start speeding up. But I'm very surprised how quickly a lot of our players have already adapted to it. We're already seeing a lot of Ten Hag style, like he likes working in 2 banks of 3 at the back and build up and whatnot. And we've seen that a lot. And I think he's really changing the team. And you can see a lot of these players who have been a bit underperforming over the past, especially the past 12 months, have been the exact opposite, and they're playing in like the forms that we hope they would be. Like Harry Maguire, for example, I know has obviously got a lot of criticism last season, but he's looking like the player when we first got him in those first 2 years. And same with like Rashford as well, and all those kind of players. I feel like this system's really getting the best out of them.
So just a follow-up question then. Have you noticed a better positional play from our fullbacks in particular? Because they were woefully out of position last season. Have you noticed a straight difference immediately with that? Or
yeah, for sure. I think obviously we've seen Ten Hag does prefer them becoming a bit more inverted and joining play in midfield. I think Malacia has shown that a lot already. But Dallow's also done it quite well as well. And I know Shaw did it a little bit. I know he's had a knock for the past couple of games, but I feel like because they're getting more regimented positioning, and I think that's something was a big criticism of Solskjaer, for example, was it was a bit more free flowing. I think that is a lot stricter in build up has made them feel a lot more comfortable because they know exactly where to be at what time and all that kind of stuff. And I think Malacia and Dallow looks I think Malacia looks absolutely great, especially for how cheap he was bought for. I think it was like £14 million, like €17 million or something like that. But I've loved the way the fullbacks have played, that they have started playing a bit more inverted, a bit more in midfield. So obviously what Man City do, Liverpool do it to an extent, but we've seen Pep do it now for years at City, and their fullbacks have been incredible the whole time. So I'm glad to see we are doing that rather than making them just push to the byline and hope for the best with a cross. I prefer it much more than it is now.
Mike, you make actually a really good point just about sorry for just cutting in there. You made a really good point about players seem to know their positions or knowing where they should be playing. I think it's something that we saw under Rangnick and I mean even Solskjaer towards the latter stage. Players looked confused. They didn't know what they were really meant to be doing. There was lots of media links about players, saying that training wasn't clear. They weren't sure what they were, where they were meant to be attacking from or defending from or whatever. And it looks like Ten Hag's come in and really kind of made it very, very explicitly clear what he wants and the way he wants to play. And players seem to be buying into that. And it's obviously, something's dropped, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I totally agree. No,
you're I hate to be a doom merchant, lads. I hate to be a doom merchant, but everything that we've just said, you could have said after Solskjaer's first game against Cardiff. Free-flowing football, going from the bad guy, everyone looks happy, new lease of life. And what did he say? We want to be the fittest team in the league. So once again, we're back questioning players' fitness. By the way, you're responsible for your own fitness, right? As a professional, the one thing I expect from you is that you're fit to play a game of football for 90 minutes at an intensity that most people in the stands couldn't do. So when you're coming out saying we're getting fit, that's an awful indictment on yourself and your own self-discipline. Now, we could sit here and talk about Ronaldo. Do you think Ronaldo ever talks about being fit? Never. Why? Doesn't leave it down to someone else. He's in chisel shape. Look at Ibrahimovic. You think he talks about being fit? How on earth are you not fit to play football? You've got gym at the house. You've got a stadium, and you've got nutritionists. You've got everything, and you're not fit. And here we are again talking about the same shit. This guy's playing well, that guy's playing well. Here's the problem. United aren't winning the league. And when the bad results come, you've got a whole dressing room filled with players that have PR agents, that have me. Tyrell Malacia had a Twitter account 5 minutes after signing for United. Okay? And when you treat players as individual brands, you immediately divide them. Because as soon as the shit starts flying, they start, it's his fault, not my fault, and it's his fault, and then all the leaks happen. And then you get a fractured dressing room. And this is because United incentivize their players to become brands, right? You can't have a winning football team with brands, right? When was the last time Liverpool or City players talked about remaining fit? Take a look at that game yesterday and the fitness and intensity and the speed of that game. It's a disgrace that we're sitting here talking about the lowest bar. Be fit. I mean, when you're negotiating your contract and you're asking to be commensurated to be compensated at around 250 grand a week, what am I paying for, lads? If you're not fit, again, Mourinho didn't trust their fitness. Solskjaer didn't trust their fitness. Ranić, after that first game against Crystal Palace, everyone was saying, "Oh, it started the coaching." You know what happened 2 months later? The bad results came, and then those players surrendered. Those players will do exactly the same to Ten Hag if Manchester United don't put strict control parameters and punish them for it. And they should make an example out of Ronaldo. We should boot her out of the football club. They should tell him, we are not a circus. This is not Disneyland. The most important metric at this football club is what you contribute on a pitch, not what you sell in the mega store, not how big your brand is, not how many retweets you get. And that is where United have placed the value on their players, which is why they consistently renewed contracts with players that, Wayne Rooney's commercial value was more than his football value whenever they renewed his contract, right? So what I get concerned about is, can United get out of their own way and run this as a football club? I hate to say this, but the one thing that may compel them to do so is they don't have the resources anymore to go out and buy Galactico superstar players that sell shirts. Now they have to act like a football club. You look at Benjamin Sesko. There's a reason why they brought Ranić in, right? Of course, Ranić would have known about Sesko, right? And now they've brought in Ten Hag. They're copying the Liverpool model, obviously. Right? No, they can't copy City. They can't copy PSG. So they have to look at Liverpool. Arsenal trying to do the same thing. My concern comes, we get players, fans, so I'm okay if Ten Hag finishes 4th or 5th. If Ten Hag finishes 4th or 5th, that means he's going to lose games. He's going to lose big games. And most of United fans on Twitter, their opinions on United and the team are defined by the last 90 minutes they just watched. Okay? Yeah. Ten Hag will get slaughtered. He'll get Solskjaer levels of abuse if he finishes 4th or 5th. Make no mistake about that, right? Because these goldfish will turn around. I mean, you already see it in pre-season. Ten Hag's now getting criticized because he lost against Atletico Madrid. It's insane. I can't read it. Most of what the commentary on Twitter from United fans, I'm not going to say I'm hoping that it's largely younger fans, is unreadable. It's so insane. So what I'm saying is, my concern, this is like the first 6 weeks of a relationship with a hot girl, right? It's all great, it's all fun, everything's magic. But then
honeymoon period, Phil.
But then the problems come, and then the character of players gets revealed. Because it's easy to be happy now. It's easy. Oh, Ten Hag's great, he's this, he's that. Well, because he's got no negatives yet. But they'll come. And then we look at players and we look at past behavior as a predictor of the future, and those players will do exactly the same if the club let them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Phil. And I was going to ask you about transition, but I don't think I'll bother now.
No, I'm optimistic about Ten Hag because I think that Richard Arnold has to do, because I think one dividend, if it goes wrong, if Ten Hag starts poorly, especially if you don't make another 2 big signings that they badly need. Yeah. The malaise and the anger still there from last season. Things will get nasty very, very quickly, and the Glazers don't have the money anymore to appease fans. There's 2 ways they appease fans. It's through signings and through results. They can't get either. So my question is, how do they stop the protests once they start going? How do they stop this? And I really think that would be what would happen.
This is the Glazers, in my opinion, like kind of last roll of the dice.
I agree.
This is their penultimate year. It has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, there's only so long United can live on past glories.
Completely agree.
Before sponsorships start, declining and everything starts falling to the pits. So
here's the thing, lads. One quick question: what have we seen different this summer in terms of how the football club is run? It's different from any other year. We've been promising all these changes. We got another transfer saga. Now, De Jong, I understand, but Anthony, they should have had an answer on Anthony a month ago.
Yeah.
Why are you dragging Anthony out? They knew they wanted Anthony before Cristiano Ronaldo put in his transfer request in. And here we are now because teams don't want to sell their best players a week before the season starts, up on the price, saying, you know what, price goes up because you took too long to do it. Should have done it a month ago.
I think you
And
also
this
need
is
to
where
remember,
United
Phil,
are.
is also like, previously in years gone by, obviously big clubs would go to the small clubs and just take their players, and that's how it was. Now we're talking about football leagues where football clubs are so wealthy in their own right, they don't need to sell. I mean, look at Brighton and Cucurella and City, for example. Brighton hold all the cards. That they've got a player there that they're holding out 50 million for. He's on a long contract, and in previous years, City would just go, "Yeah, we'll have him, thank you. We'll have him, thank you." Nowadays, United have got to be shrewd with their money, and obviously, if Ajax are saying he's 80, 90, whatever million, and United have a budget. Obviously, all clubs will have a budget of some sort that they would have put aside. Obviously, hopefully they would have budgeted for that. And if they haven't, then yeah, as you said, nothing is really kind of have changed. But you've also got to remember that Ten Hag arrived late as well. So he arrived late to the party. United didn't have a chance this year to put
Serge,
together.
United appointed Ten Hag back in May.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, for example, when City signed Haaland, it'd been going on for over a year, putting all the things in place.
United couldn't sign Haaland when Solskjaer gave him his debut. They couldn't sign Bellingham either, right? Now, they could have had Haaland and didn't because of his buyout clause, right? So
I'm just using that as an example.
I'm saying, okay, what are they doing different? I want to believe that it's different. But I don't see any efficiency in how they go about signing players. The only understand. But where's the rest of them? How is this football club not got a striker? It's unbelievable to me. Listen, they've been kicking this can down the road since Cavani, since Ibrahimovic. They've known they needed a striker, right? And the Darwin Nunez thing.
I think part of it is also down to the fact that there is a little.
Serge, what did Rania tell them in January? They need a striker.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't sign Vlahovic. They didn't sign all the strikers that were available to them. They've known about the Mason Greenwood situation since at least January. I don't believe that when Ten Hag was in his interview, he didn't say, you need a striker, because it was obvious to anyone with a set of eyes.
I mean, it's very possible. I mean, yeah, I mean.
Mike, do you want to add to this, or?
No, I'm just having a great watch.
It's a good interaction here. It's absolutely brilliant. I don't really want to split that up because I was mesmerised by it as well. A lot of the comments are saying that Phil should do the team talk against Brighton. So no, rightly so. I've got a couple of questions actually coming, guys. Obviously, a lot of them are going to be surrounded around which young players you think can make it through. So Blakey wants to know, who do you think the breakthrough players will be this season? He's thinking about Zidane, Garnacho and Savage. Now, look, I quite liked what Garnacho did today. I thought he played very, very well. But it did show his deficiencies as a young boy in a man's game. And I just think we have to be careful about that personally. I thought there were 3 or 4 occasions where he could have actually played the ball rather than his youthful exuberance taking through. But hey, look, I never made it to that level, so who am I to argue with the kid? But he's got flashes of promise, hasn't he? Mm-hmm. We've seen this before, though, haven't we, with strikers? I don't want to go down, the Makeda and the Januzaj route, but we've seen this before. So I'll start with you, Serge, and then just jump in, guys, as and when you want, about who you think can make it. But actually not think, but why, what attribute they can actually add to the starting 11 or the squad.
So I actually think this season you'll see a lot of Garnacho. I also think you'll see a lot of Zidane Iqbal. If we don't sign De Jong, I think you'll see a lot of Zidane Iqbal. I think he's a player that can play out from the back, sit in front of the defence. Granted, obviously, he probably not as beefy or as strong, maybe as De Jong is, in terms of age. He's obviously a number of years older than him, but he's not filled out. But he's a fantastic technical player, and I think that's something that Ten Hag really likes, technical players. I think you've seen that with Martinez today. Obviously it was his first game, but you just saw a reassurance on the ball. When he had the ball, it was very assured play, very Yeah, just a technical player, technical defender. And I think a lot of us thought Varane was a technical player as well. But now that I see him next to Martinez, I actually think Martinez is heads and shoulders above him in terms of technicality. I'm only bearing in mind I'm only judging on today. Just the way he played, his calmness, what I would call a bullshitter. He doesn't shit himself on the ball. He's kind of really calm. Yeah. And I think we kind of missed that. I don't think. But our defense in terms of Lindelof, Varane, or even Bailly, I mean, any of them are remotely assured or calm on the ball, as you said, like a hot potato or hot lava, or whatever you said. But Martinez seems to have that, which is great. So I think Iqbal's one of them. I think he's a player that is assured on the ball. He doesn't hold on to it. You don't see that silly youthfulness that you sometimes see in Garnacho because he wants to impress or whatever. I think he just does the simple things very well, and he gets stuck in. That's what I think. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's hard to say because we are still trying to tie transfers down. Like if De Jong comes in, obviously Iqbal won't get as much time, but he's looked great in that role, in that deep lying role, because I mean we saw it today even as well. Like Garner started there, and I think Iqbal looked better than Garner did when they subbed each other off. So I'd love Iqbal to play a bit more. It's obviously he probably won't as much if De Jong comes, because then Fred's probably going to be De Jong's backup if there's an injury or anything. But I think Iqbal's been great in preseason. Out of all the academy, I think Garnacho might get the most time though, because let's say Ronaldo goes, we don't get a striker, or even if we get Šeško, it's going to probably be a lone back anyway. So then you're probably assuming Rashford might play up front more, which then means there'll be more space on the left wing or whatever. But I think Garnacho will probably see the most of, but I think just going off preseason alone and a little bit in the under-23s last year, I think Iqbal could really be something. And I think it's a really good long-term option for that role because Fred's 29, I think, 28, 29. So he's got so many years ahead of him. Yeah, he's got so many years ahead of him. And I've been really impressed with him because I didn't think he was, when he got his debut at the start of like this calendar year, when I'd seen him in the academy and stuff, I thought he's decent, but I'm not sure if he's going to be a United caliber starter. And I think this preseason's really shown that if he was in the right system, like he is in Ten Hag, he could really be something. So I think I'd agree that I think Iqbal's probably going to be the breakthrough player, but I do think we'll probably see a bit more of Garnacho.
I would agree with Mike on that. I think for a couple of reasons. One, opportunity. Two, I think with Alexis Zidane Iqbal, who's been very, very impressive, I'd like to see him loaned out so that we're not talking about another Andres Pereira here. We're not talking about a preseason superstar. I think also when you're playing young players down the center of your team, the span of your team, is really, really risky. And I think that defensive midfield position is one of the hardest in the league, in a team, because the vast majority of the time you're getting the ball with your back to the attackers. So you have to be tactically excellent. If you make a mistake in that position, you put defense under enormous pressure. So I think in that defensive midfield role where you need someone that has a technical ability to take a ball and link and not panic when you're getting pressured and you're getting pressed, you have to have experience in that, which to me is part of the reason why Ten Hag hasn't gone to alternatives with De Jong, because it's the perfect player for him in that position. So I would be surprised if United were to put Zidane Iqbal in there. But the Dutch trust youth. There's something sticks out in me. I remember when Van Gaal in his first press conference was asked about this. And he said, I don't trust experience in the same way that you do. You know, some young players play with experience, more nous than a lot of experienced players because their bad habits, aren't cemented yet. They're still, they're still moldable. So I think I agree with Mike. I think Garnacho will get most, and to be honest, I think he looks the most ready, the most proven. We've seen him play in the Premier League. I would like to see, we're sitting talking about James Garner, who's had an exceptional season at Forest last season at a really high level, and we're not sure if he's ready yet. So I think I would like to see Zidane Iqbal loaned out to a top championship team where he gets. The kid looks mature. I'll give him that. But I would like to see him in that environment.
Yeah, I think I agree with you all, really. I think Garnacho's probably likely to see more time. I think Iqbal's a wonderful talent. I also, by the way, I do like Charlie Savage as well. I think he's got a very cultured left foot, and he's far more composed than his old man was. And I think he's got that. I think learning off somebody like Ericsson, to be able to try and grasp Ericsson's vision on a football pitch with his ability to pass would be really beneficial to him, to work alongside him. I guess with Iqbal, and it's only a slight reservation, he's quite a slight player in frame, and I don't know whether or not that would go against him, I guess, in some matches.
So is Frankie de Jong. Yeah, exactly.
Well, he is, isn't he?
He's not a big beefcake, is he? So
yeah, you forget that. But look, he's a young boy, isn't he, at the end of the day as well, so he's got a lot growing. I said I wouldn't touch on Ronaldo, but Connor, who runs our sister channel, the Women's AFU, has asked about Ronaldo. Should we allow him to walk back into the side? I'll open that to the floor. Whoever wants to take it first, go ahead.
Go on, Phil, you were very vocal. I'll let you take on.
Well, look, lads, here's the thing, right? What we know is that Cristiano Ronaldo called Erik ten Hag when he got the job. I mean, he done an interview, I think it was the 1st of June, where he talked about how excited he was that Ten Hag was there. I guarantee you Ronaldo was consulted on who the selection of the new manager was, right? And so you do that. You talk to Ten Hag, you tell him how excited you are to play for him, and then a couple of days later, you put a transfer request in through the media and don't talk to the manager. I mean, how can you tolerate that? It is so disrespectful to Ten Hag. It's the first test Manchester United have as a football club to say the most important thing at this club is winning football matches, not profit and loss, win-loss, right? So this is where it's a gut check for them, because Ronaldo's worth a lot of money. United's commercial revenue hasn't grown in 4 years. They need him. And you're going, this is where you really have to show that the dressing room, the collective spirit. I don't think some of those players like Ronaldo, some don't. At this point, I know United have treated Cantona and other players as special in the past, but Cristiano Ronaldo is 37 years of age. And we've just seen how world football's responded to his availability. Most people don't want him because the cost benefit of Ronaldo is completely changing. It's not just his goals. I've made this comparison before, where I've said, look, he reminds me of a heavyweight boxer, because the last thing to go in a fighter is their punching power. You'll still score goals, you still get impressive knockouts, but it's all the other things that cost you. It's why you lose. You have to customize your whole football club to him. He does what he wants with the media. He does what he wants, just pretty much everything. I don't think that's conducive to producing a collective spirit inside a dressing room. And I think at this point, United are well within their rights to kick him out, but I don't think they will for the main reason that we were talking about earlier. I don't think they budgeted for a striker this summer, and I don't think they can afford to lose him.
I think with regards to Ronaldo, I think, I guess I mentioned right at the beginning when Ten Hag came in, was you can't build a squad around a 37, 38-year-old striker. That's just plain and obvious for everyone to see. We wanted a kind of a clean break from the old and a fresh start, if you want. And obviously, it stinks of more of the same old. Again, as you mentioned before, I don't want to go back to the old point that you mentioned before, but Phil, you mentioned, what's changed, and like you think about some of the stuff that's come out last week with Fergie coming back into a role of some official role within the club. Is that the right decision? Are we going back to the same? Is it the same old?
It's insane
stuff.
Would Fergie have tolerated that?
No, of course not.
No. And what did Ranić say about cosmetic changes? Because that's all I see right now. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Serge.
No. I think the point you made are really valid. I mean, in my opinion, with Ronaldo, we should be making an example of him. I don't think he should be allowed to go straight back into the squad. I don't think he should be allowed anywhere near the team. At the end of the day, I read Sam Luckhurst's post about the mood in the squad seems a lot happier and whatever. And, people seem to be getting on it. And I think that's something that Ten Hag has really tried to create. since coming in. He wants, I read there were some rules about them not being able to be on their phones. They have to eat dinners together and all sorts of things that you would think are normal things, for a football club to have. But as you said, obviously, maybe not with United because everyone seems to want to be a brand, and we seem to have been. I mean, I know you mentioned some things haven't changed, but we seem to have gotten rid of some of the players that have been branded players like Paul Pogba and players like Jesse Lingard that have their own brands. I'm not saying that we've got rid of every single branded player because, I mean, if we did that, we probably wouldn't have a first 11.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. Mike?
Yeah, I completely agree with the others about Ronaldo. I don't think he should be waltzing back into the team whatsoever. I think outside of the first couple of months of when he first rejoined through our nostalgia glasses, I don't think he's been good enough for the club, obviously. And then he's just not a fit anymore. I think he's a bit, obviously he's declined a bit, but also in terms of just modern football, he isn't a number 9. I think he's more of a second striker. He's always worked better when he's had a number 9 to do all the work for him, like Karim Benzema, for etc., or Tevez and Rooney back in the day for us. But I just don't think he's going to fit Ten Hag's system in the slightest. And everything he's done just this summer has just been terrible. And we've looked decent without him. Obviously, our forward depth is nothing, but I think that front three we've seen in the first few games of Sancho, Rashford, and Martial they look happy to be playing with each other. And obviously, we've seen Rashford and Martial play well together a couple of years ago, obviously in the Project Restart part of the season where they played incredible. I think Jaden Sanchez has always really helped in that regard. They all love they love playing with each other. And I think Ronaldo just kind of ruins it. We saw last season, all the players around him had near career low numbers in like goals, assists, and all the other creative stats. And I feel like we'd probably be a better team without him. And you can see it why no one's going in for him, even though there has been reports of him fine taking a salary reduction and all that kind of stuff. No one wants him. You're hearing it every 3 days of Bayern Munich just saying, no, we don't want him. Can you please stop saying this? And same with Atletico and everyone else. And it's just like, if none of these clubs want him, why should we want him if we want to be back in that upper echelon of Europe? So I'd be completely fine if Ronaldo goes for free tomorrow or anything along those lines, because I don't think he should be at United anymore.
He was an Ed Woodward signing. Ed Woodward went and convinced Solskjaer to bring him back. I convinced the Glazers. The other part of this, lads, I spoke to some players last season about why they were so upset with Ranić. And they said, well, he was coming out in the media slaughtering the players, but he wasn't telling the whole story because we were behaving like this for a reason. And they were claiming that the club broke a lot of promises to them that weren't kept. Now, I know that Van de Beek was telling us to De Jong. So when you hear players turning down United because of the craziness with how they run, the chaos with how they run, that's where it's coming from, right? So the football club have to have trust with their employees. Because when I looked at those players last season, there's a lot of reasons why you should care. I don't care if you want to leave. I don't care if you think you should be playing more or whatever. But if you can't care about the fans that are paying in to watch you or the people that brought you to the football club, something seriously fractured there. I mean, I look at those Liverpool and City games. Those United players surrendered in those games. There wasn't a tackle. Man, watch a Celtic Rangers game, right? You'll have tackles. You'll have everything in it. You'll have players dying for their own self-respect and pride. I mean, that Liverpool result home and away was unbelievable for its treachery, for what those players did. They betrayed that shirt. People that do that, what's that Maya Angelou saying? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. They'll do that again if they're allowed to do that again.
Phil, you're right. I mean, just look at the women tonight. That was a proper tough physical game of football. Really good to watch, and they showed more spirit than you're absolutely right than what the lads did. Just before we go to our next question, there's plenty of you watching. Look, it's very rare you get 3 titans of the Twitter sphere that we're able to get together. So get your questions into these guys, because I promise you now the wealth of knowledge is huge. Get them in, because you might not get this chance again. Look, I've got the inevitable Donny question, which we're always going to get. But Ben, who's a regular actually on AFU, he's a regular on a Friday night with myself and Reese. He wants to know, are fans now starting to actually watch Donny play rather than not watch him play? And what he's saying is, when you actually look and watch what Donny does in his movement and his intelligence in his movement, is he adding more to the game, adding more to the team than what the average fan can see? I'll start, actually, Mike, I'll start with you on this one.
I think he's been okay up to now in pre-season, to be completely honest. I think it's hard for you to really notice everything that Van der Beek does, because obviously he's in that system he was in under Ten Hag at Ajax, when he did really well when he had Dusan Tadic in front of him as a false nine. He played this weird role that we've never really seen in the Premier League outside of maybe Dele Alli for a couple of years at Tottenham when he was really good. So I think it's still hard for us to say this is exactly the way he should be playing, but I'm fine with him there, to be fair. I don't think our midfield is as deep as it should be, so I'm fine with Van der Beek playing a lot more. But I think he still isn't this technical like juggernaut we'd assume we would have got from Ajax in terms of his ball play and like in possession and whatnot. His movement, obviously, his off-ball movement is great, and obviously his assist, I can't remember which pre-season game it was now. He had a great assist. I think it was against one of the Australian clubs or something. But I love that, and if he can fit into the system where he can just basically be just moving around near the box, around the 18-yard box, around it, he's great. But if we are struggling with possession and against one of the bigger teams like City or Liverpool, he isn't going to look that good. So I think he'd look great in against the smaller clubs in the Premier League and cup games and all that kind of stuff. But I still don't think he's at that level. But I think that's fine, because we've got Christian Eriksen now. We've still got Bruno Fernandes, who's one of the best midfielders in the world by far. And if we hopefully get De Jong as well, we've got some great midfielders that he can be this perfect rotation player, which can't think the last time United have actually had some good rotation players, because normally you have fans say, why are they not playing, or all that stupid stuff. So I think he's the perfect rotation player going forward. And hopefully we can see more of those times that we saw him at Ajax when he was just scoring and assisting for fun in that amazing run they had about 3 years ago now, I think. So I think that's what I'd think about Van der Beek. I
think it's a really good point. I think something that United have definitely been hit by in the past is signing players from leagues where they're obviously not as competitive as the Premier League, and the Dutch league is definitely obviously not as not as strong as the Premier League. And I think Dutch players who come to the Premier League, obviously barring the ones that we all know about who made it, tend to really struggle. And I think you look at even players that didn't play for Man United, people like Davy Klaassen and others that moved to like Everton or whatever and never did it. But then when they went back to the Dutch league, turned it on again, they look world class. So I think it's very easy, not easy, but it's easier to look better in a league which isn't as great. And I don't really get the whole, for me anyway, the whole love that people have of Van der Beek. I think maybe it's from a place of feeling bad that he never really got a proper chance at United. I think that's maybe where that comes from. In terms of what you said, Mike, I completely agree. I think he is probably as good as a rotational player. And I think pre-season for me is kind of proved that. I don't think he is going to be a starter. And also, watching the likes of, for example, like Christian Eriksen, as you mentioned, even in the 20 minutes that he came on yesterday, I was like, this guy's class. And it's just that top ilk, that little kind of world-class level that you see with certain players like the Eriksens. It reminds me of, like, for example, when we signed Van Persie. I mean, he was like just world-class. And it's so hard to find those kind of that top tier world class, level of player. So I think we've done very well signing Christian Eriksen. In my opinion, I think he'll be really good. Whether he can play in the same team as Bruno Fernandes in an 11 with Bruno, Eriksen, and a Fred or a McTominay, I think that's a very unbalanced team. But I don't know. I don't know where Eriksen fits in all of this. That's my only concern. Is he going to play instead of Bruno? Is Eriksen going to be happy sitting on the bench coming on as a sub? Same goes with Van der Beek.
Yeah, I mean, Ericsson is the cream, that little top of cream you get on the old golden top. Phil will remember those years ago.
The bird used to beat them. Bird used to nudge him all the time.
Just that little bit of cream. You've got everyone else, then you just got that little bit of cream. And Ericsson fits there brilliantly, Serge. And Phil, just expanding on Donny van der Beek slightly, do you think the addition of De Jong will help him? Do you think it'll unlock anything? I mean, it's a question I get asked all the time. I get it asked all the time.
Have we unlocked Pogba yet?
We unlocked the front door to let him out the front. To let him out the gates of Carrington.
Tell you what, easier to unlock Julian Assange. How many times we're going to buy a player to unlock this player, unlock that? World-class players top players don't do this. Right? Donny van der Beek couldn't get in Solskjaer's team, couldn't get in Rangnick's team, couldn't get in Lampard's team. Right? The team was about to be relegated. Right? So when we say this really is the last chance for him, and it's not just him, to be fair, this really is the last. You're at Manchester United. You have to take your chance when it comes. You don't get 2 years to prove you're good enough to play for this football club. You don't get 3 years to do that. You show it right away. And I'm looking at Van der Beek. If you can look at his second season, he came back physically bigger, noticeably bigger, right? Solskjaer told him he had to get bigger. Also, there was a game in his first season when he had to play at Southampton. They were winning, and they brought him on, and they conceded a late goal, really late goal. I think it was Danny Ings. And Van der Beek wandered all over the place, and the United couldn't keep possession. And Solskjaer was livid because he said that he couldn't hold shape. He was all over the place. So there's clearly something about Donny van der Beek that people don't like. And I want him to work. I mean, I remember the guy who was at Ajax, and again, he wasn't on Solskjaer's center. I really wanted him to work. But we're sitting here, lads, 3 years in going, well, maybe he just needs this. Maybe maybe he needs to, I don't know, play in a team where play against a lower league. I don't know, but I looked at Christian Eriksen today, and I see a better player in Christian Eriksen than I see in Van der Beek. Right?
Unbelievable.
So, and everything that I hope Van der Beek would be. So I'm looking at him going, how many excuses are we going to make here for this lad? Really nice lad, but boys, there comes a point when you don't get asked certain questions in the Dutch league. You get asked them in the English league. And he's never answered those questions, right? You bought potential. And sometimes potential doesn't get realized. We're at a point where Donny van der Beek's potential has never been realized. Now, the two most expensive players to leave the Dutch league were De Ligt and De Jong. Both of whom will probably be sold this summer for no more than what they were bought. The Dutch league is risky, right? This is why the Anthony fee is ridiculous. There's just certain things in certain environments. I mean, Daley Blind, I wanted to be a super success at Manchester United. And we can see how he is at Ajax. Sometimes it's about being in the right place, in the right system, for the right manager. We've seen this so many times. Mo Salah is a perfect example of this, right? Was 26 before we really saw the best out of Mo Salah at Liverpool. So I think sometimes you have to be in the right place. And he will never have a better situation than what he's got right now to make it at Manchester United.
Yeah,
and we've got to stop making excuses.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Phil. We've got another question, guys, from the Gaffer. The Gaffer's in the chat. Me and him have been talking on the off-season about Varane. Now, Phil was on a show with me, and I'm going back last summer, and I was quite bold, and I said Varane would struggle. And I don't know if you remember it, Phil, but you're on a show with me, and I said Varane would struggle. And I cited the Ramos and Pepe partnership that he had with them. And he's never really shown what he can do. He's had a lot of injuries, etc., but not really shown what he can do. Serge spoke eloquently about Martinez, and everything Serge said about Martinez, I totally agreed with, because I thought he was brilliant today. I really did. I know it's his first game, etc., but you can see a player there. Is it likely to be Varane? Do you think Ten Hag fancies Varane? Me and Ben kind of agree on this one, or do you think it could be a Martinez-Varane partnership rather than a Martinez-Maguire? Serge, I'll go with you.
I said earlier in my pod on the Mancunian Way that I think it's going to be Varane and Martinez, but I mean, thinking about it properly, the way Varane played today, anyway, I thought it was really poor, really poor today. Again, and I watched him in pre-season as well, and he looked poor. I don't know what's happened to the fella, but he looks a shadow of his former self. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or it's just an injury thing or what, but I mean, even against players like whoever played in Australia, he wasn't able to keep up. There was a couple of times where they just ran past him. I saw it against Villa as well when we played Villa. They just ghosted past him a few times. It was just like, this guy's meant to be a world class, centre half who's won everything. So you expect more from him. I don't know whether Ten Hag likes him or not. I mean, Phil probably has more of the in on that than I do, but I think if he continues playing the way he has done, I think you're probably likelier to see Maguire, Martinez back too.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with that. What about yourself, Mike?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Martinez and Maguire. I think we've seen him play Maguire a lot more on the right side when Solskjaer obviously didn't. He didn't really much at Leicester, and I know Ranić played him there a little bit, but he was a bit over the place in regards to which side of the centre back he was playing. But since Ten Hag came in, he's played exclusively on the right, and I think he's going to fit really well with him because Maguire's ball playing numbers have always been some of the best in the league for defenders. I think people can forget about that. That his like progression and passing and all that is really, really, really good. And I think he's going to work really well with Martinez. I think, especially yesterday against Atletico, we saw Maguire play really well as that covering defender. I can't remember. I think it might have been against Correa or something. He did really well, taking his time and then putting his foot in at the right time. And we haven't really seen that. He's normally been a lot more of the aggressor out of the two. So I think he's going to work really well. And I think, and Ten Hag's kept going on about it now for the past few weeks, is it's going to be a really long season. Hopefully we play more than 38 games, at least like 50. And we've got the World Cup right in the middle of it, which is going to be really bad for players, especially players who have had their injury issues like Varane has had for the last season. And I'm completely fine having Varane as the first defender off the bench, let's say, where he's going to play a lot of cup games and he's going to play a lot of other games because who knows how long Maguire and Martinez will last being the starting centre-backs. Obviously, we still have Lindelof as well, but I think it's the perfect thing that Varane will be that third centre-back again, how he was at Real when he was younger with Ramos and Pepe. So I do think he doesn't favour Varane as much. I don't think he's as good as a ball player as Maguire or Martinez in terms of with the ball at his feet. I think he's obviously faster and a better like overall defender, but in terms of possession, I don't think he's as good as either. And I think that's what Ten Hag's probably going to prioritise this season. So
I think that lends itself to Ten Hag's system with this kind of technical player, similar to Pep. Pep plays with technical players. Most of his players can play in every position. You could have, there's an argument to have Haaland playing centre back, whatever. You know what I mean? Like they can all play each other's roles because they're all technical and they're all brilliant with the ball at the feet. We don't have that. So to have Martinez come in and be like that, and Eriksen, and hopefully we'll get in some more as well. We'll start being more of a kind of a modern style of play.
Yeah, I totally agree. Phil, any inside info on that?
Well, once Ten Hag announced Maguire as captain, it was Maguire and someone else, right? So we know Maguire is going to be starting centre back. Varane missed 18 Premier League games last season. That's almost half the season. You, at centre-back, you have to have consistency. And I have question marks for whether Varane's physically capable of playing in a 38-game season in the Premier League. You remember his first game, I think it was Wolves away. We nearly won that game 1-0, or I don't know how he did. I remember him at the end of the game going, the intensity was unbelievable. You get an intensity in the Premier League that you don't get in other leagues. Remember when Ranić said Burnley wouldn't be relegated in the Bundesliga? Right? There's the top teams in England aren't as good as the Real Madrid, but there's more competitive balance, right? So I think when I look United last season, they finished up with a 0 goal difference. Obviously, they didn't score enough goals, right? But also a lot of that was defending set pieces through no consistency in defence. And I think Varane, this could be his last season at United, in my opinion, because you don't spend 55 million on Martinez to not play him. So clearly he saw a problem on the left-hand side of the defence, which is why they brought Malachians too. Solskjaer wanted a left-foot centre-back 2 years ago, didn't get it. United should have done this a long time ago. So he clearly sees that as a problem position. And how could you not? You can't have a centre-back missing half a season.
Yeah,
and he had these injuries at Real Madrid too, which I think is part of the reason why they didn't want to pay him what he wanted in his contract renewal. So I just don't think, I think he's a very, very good defender if he stays fit, and in a league that doesn't have the physical or the speed and intensity of the Premier League, where he's not under the same physical constraints. So for me, I think I agree with Mike in the sense that it'll be Maguire and Martinez.
Yeah, I agree too. We're coming up towards the hour, guys. Are you all right for a couple more questions, lads?
Yeah, I'm good.
Great. We've got one here from Fred Woodwards. He's a regular contributor to AFU. So he says, given how Arsenal and Spurs have strengthened this window, will we realistically improve our league position this season, or should we purely focus on gradual improvements throughout the squad / club? It's a good question, that actually. Phil, you can kick that one off if you don't mind.
Yeah, if United finish in the same position they finished last season, then it's a disaster. You know, I mean, just think about what would happen if that happens. Then the Adidas thing kicks in, right, where they lose that revenue. And the Adidas contract is up next season, I believe. So put United in a very weak position commercially, revenue-wise. Ten Hag's not there to repeat what just happened, right? And the criticism, United would find themselves in exactly the same position they found themselves in before they appointed Ten Hag if they repeat this season. So to me, they have to finish in the top four. They have to, right? And if United aren't buying players this summer with that goal or that intent, given that Richard Arnold's already said the money's there this season, beyond that, we're not so sure, I'd be really, really concerned about what Manchester United define as success. Maybe it's never winning the league again. Maybe it's just finishing top four. Maybe it's just not being shit enough to where it's going to create anger and protests, and just being good enough where we're not having to go out and spend a couple of $100 million to win the league. We're happy with second. Because if you look at when United finish second, it's the following season that's always the problem. Because then they lose that sense of urgency that they need to fix things. Then they kind of get complacent and keeping up consistent standards is hard. You know, this is where Richard Arnold, I mean, this football club has not just come off the disgraceful season. The Super League is still fresh in my mind, right? And the way Manchester United run are a result of an ideology from the top down. And I don't believe the owners are going to become benevolent and all of a sudden run United in a different way. Can they thread the needle between making sure the football club makes a lot of money and also being successful on the pitch? So far, they haven't been able to do that. Not even get close. United lost their last 6 away games. They cannot do that again. We can't attract top players anymore. This gets really, really hard to get out of. Now you need exceptional management to get out of this and really run as a football club. And I don't know if United can do that. So it absolutely has to be top four.
I totally agree. Serge, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, to echo everything that Phil says, I think it's, I think United have to be as successful as they have been off the pitch, on the pitch. And, this season is United have always traditionally been, we go for the league every year. We have, and anything, if we don't win the league is a failure. Obviously, we're not going to win the league this year, and I think that's pretty clear. But we've got to at least get top four. There's too much riding on it. There's too much riding on it for the players. Too much riding on it commercially. There's just too much riding on it for us not to get it. So United have to go big in the transfer window. Need to go and get the players that Ten Hag wants and make it happen. I mean, one thing I did want to ask Phil that I sent over to you privately was, how do you feel about the managers, getting the choice over Martinez over the likes of, say, Pau Torres, that the scouting department or the club? Do you like the fact that they're giving these decisions to the coach for him to
I do
decide over?
When Mourinho went to Chelsea, he brought Carvalho, he brought Ferreira, he brought his own people. Lots of managers do this. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Arsenal have gone out and bought Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. You know, why aren't they being criticised? What Ten Hag needs in that dressing room is soldiers. He needs people he can trust, their personality, their character. That's going to cause a dynamic shift in that dressing room where players who behave disgracefully are going to get shamed. Right? That's what he needs. He needs people he can trust. Steve McLaren is a good barometer for what Dutch players are capable of playing in the Premier League, given he has tremendous experience in both those leagues. So I think that was smart. It also is a conduit between Ferguson, and they shouldn't be giving Ferguson more power. I mean, you only need to look at what happened after Sir Matt with Franco Farrell, Bump Guinness, and all that, who detested the fact that Sir Matt Busby was still called the boss. First thing I heard in the match today, there's the boss. He's not the boss anymore. Right? And this hero worshipping of him, United want the ingredients that Ferguson, the manager's the most important person at the football club. Well, United don't act like that. Right? If you want to recreate that, then you have to adhere to the principles that he set, but they don't like that. So to me, I think the other thing is, Serge, a year from now, United are going to need a big striker. So if they finish outside the top four, they're not getting it. And they won't have the money for it. This is where I feel things are really fragile. So it's really important that Ten Hag gets people in that dressing room that he trusts, not players that United have scouted and think might fit. How many times have we got this wrong, right? And to me, I think John Murdoch's done a very, very good job rebuilding the academy, but not a perfect job. And to me, like I said, the fact that we're sitting here, United need 60-plus goals next season to finish in the top four. That means they'll need at least 2 players hitting 20 goals. Where's those 20 goals coming from? You know, and so the fact that we're sitting here less than a week away from the start of the season without having signed a striker is just unbelievable to me.
Agreed.
I think just on that, just sorry to
no, carry on.
My biggest concern about, again, you mentioned signing the right player, the right profile of player. There seems to be a kind of a lull in the market, and it seems to come on a cyclical basis of a lull in strikers or a lull in sentiments or whatever. There doesn't seem to be an obvious choice out there, Phil, for United to say we should go get him. None of us had heard of this Benjamin Sesko till last week, and I won't hear anyone say otherwise because I won't believe it. But yeah, there seems to be a real skill shortage, shall we say, in strikers.
The positions changed. There's no doubt. This is why Spurs bought Richarlison for 16 million. The positions definitely changed. You don't get those old-fashioned number 9s. Oh, I don't want to dominate this conversation, so I'll shut up in a second. But I think you're right. There isn't, but it's also commensurate with United standing. They don't get top players anymore. United never were good at sending players when they had competition for them anyway. Right? They will always invariably lose out on that. But now they're not even being considered. If Liverpool come in for the same player, United aren't getting them. Right? Now, to us, that we look at that differently because we're United fans. But if you're Uruguayan, why would you care? And on top of which, these pod players are all playing with players that are at the football club in their national teams. They know what the mess is inside that football club. I can tell you stuff you would not believe that is going on. It's so unprofessional. And it's not just amongst the playing staff. It's amongst some of the administrative staff and how they've been treated. One of the reasons why Pogba got so upset is because United renewed his contract when he was out injured, exercised that extra year. Patrice Evra said that Ed Woodward renewed his contract renewal through the post when he'd already given a commitment that he would let him leave. This is not the first time, second time, third time, fourth time United have done this. So in order to learn from mistakes, you have to know what those mistakes are. Right? And I sometimes wonder if United even know what mistakes they're making. So to me, I think... I have major concerns. If United had a really important financial role to fill in that football club, they wouldn't give it to someone on a trial basis and say, "Here, go ahead and have a crack at that, mate. Let me see if you're good." Right? They would go for the very best they could find, that's the most qualified, because that matters more to them. If the Glazers got most money for finishing last, that would be United's goal. Right? So to me, I think there has to be a massive shift at the football club on so many different levels. But I don't know. It's a concern.
Just out of interest, striker-wise for me, it would have been Vlahovic. But I know he's at Juventus, but that would have been the striker for me. I think.
They were offered Luis Diaz too.
Were we?
Yeah, they were after
Again,
Luis Diaz
obviously,
in
but
January.
again, Luis Diaz is a forward. Yeah, so it all depends, I suppose, on the system. You know, and I mentioned this right at the beginning. Like, you know, I think whether we suit a team that has an out-and-out striker, or whether we suit a team that plays false nines, interchangeable, etc., the way City have played over the last few years, I think that can almost be more difficult to play against. You know, as opposed to having a recognised striker. I said this at the beginning that I actually think City will be easier to play against. I'll probably get shot down and I'll probably get proven wrong. With no doubt, that's always going to happen, isn't it? But I do think that we should go for necessarily. We don't necessarily need to go for an out-and-out striker if we go for a forward player like a Luis Diaz, similar ilk of player, similar style to play along the front three, and you could get goals out of all of them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mike, just closing off this segment, then we'll have one more question, guys, which is 3 parts by the looks of it. But the lads are saying top 4 is a minimum for us then. And Phil's talking about 60, 65, maybe 70 goals. To do that, I would suggest we're going to need to win 10 or 11 consecutive matches at some point during the season to get there as well. Is this team capable of A, doing that, and B, scoring 60, 70 goals?
Yeah, it's hard to see. Yeah, it's hard to see, isn't it? Because obviously all the other teams, well, Chelsea haven't really strengthened as much, but Arsenal have strengthened, Tottenham have strengthened a load, and they looked really good under Antonio Conte last season after he took over and after he got them gelled up a bit. And then obviously there's City and Liverpool. So I think we're going to be in that 4th or 5th. I think, I know I'm probably jinxing them here, but I can see Tottenham finishing 3rd. And then it's just a free-for-all like it has been now for God knows how many years, where basically 4th place is lava and everyone messes up at the end of the season. And I think it's going to be hard, obviously, because I don't think we're good enough yet, but I think Chelsea dropped off quite hard. Arsenal are still a very inexperienced team. Like, they're all still very, very young. I think they've looked good in pre-season, but pre-season's pre-season. And it's just a hard one, isn't it? Like, I hope we bring in some more players. Obviously, if De Jong joins and then we do somehow bring in some kind of forward who can play this season, not someone like Šeško who's probably just going to be a lone back, but another one, then yeah. But
I'm surprised. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm surprised that Man United have not gone for someone like Hakim Ziyech at 8 million or whatever he's been quoted for, who knows Ten Hag, played under Ten Hag before. Chelsea seems to be set up as requirements there. Yeah, I'm really surprised that we've not gone for him.
Yeah, I've been saying the same to my friends.
Apparently, this Šeško apparently was top quality on Football Manager. Apparently, that's where most people have.
They got out for Griezmann last week. They turned him down.
Well, I'm not surprised. Final question, then, guys. Quite an interesting question. There you go. Whoever wants to take it, fire away. Who's going to win the Golden Boot? What are our cup predictions?
Generally, like across all teams, like who's going to win?
Yeah, I think,
or at United, who's going to be the top goal scorer?
I think he's talking about. I think this is more of a general question throughout the season, really, of all clubs. Who's going to win the Golden Boot? Cup predictions, and who will be the least impressive? Interesting. Anyone? Don't mind.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Mike. I'll let you go first.
I think Golden Boot. I'm just going to say Harry Kane, because last season was obviously bad for him, but I do think Conte is a great manager, and I think they've really improved themselves. I could see Kane, if he can stay healthy, which is obviously a big if, but if he can stay healthy, he can easily score. I mean, I don't know how many Golden Boots he's got off the top of my head, but it's at least 3. And I think Salah might drop off a little bit. Don't mean in terms of ability, but just in terms of sheer goals, because they're going to be trying to feed Nunez a bit more, and then obviously you're going to see Diego Jota playing a lot more and stuff like that because of Mane leaving. So I think he'll drop out a bit, and I just don't think Haaland's going to be acclimating that quickly where he's going to score 30 easily or something like that. So I think Kane. Cup predictions. I don't want to say who will probably win the Champions League, because it'll probably be one of City or Liverpool like normal, which is disgusting to say. I think we're the favourites for Europa. I think if we don't win Europa, if not make the final, then it's a failure. And then for the cups, it's just anyone, isn't it? I'd love if we could go on a cup run, because we haven't won anything since it was the first Mourinho season, wasn't it? Since last time we won something. So Christ.
But we won we won the Bangkok Cup.
Oh yeah, we won that, didn't we? Yeah.
The Bangkok trophy. Yeah.
Van Gaal won us a cup. Don't forget
Won
that.
the FA Cup, didn't he? Van Gaal.
Yeah, he won us the FA Cup and then got sacked the next day. People, I remember leaving the ground and we were all singing Jose Mourinho, and he just won us the FA Cup. Terrible.
Amazing.
But lads, that's an sorry, mate. Go ahead.
I was just going to finish it off, and then standout player and least impressive. I think standout player, it's a hard one. It's just because I don't know who will be, like, let's say like a newcomer or something like that. I don't think there's anyone who's going to really change it. I think your standout player is probably just going to be like Kevin De Bruyne again or something like that. And then least impressive, and I kind of don't want to say it because I'm just going to get massively jinxed. I just hope it's Darwin Nunez because of how hilarious it's been on Twitter seeing all these fail cams of his. I know he scored yesterday, but I just want to keep seeing them, to be completely honest. And it was great seeing Liverpool mess up a transfer. So I'm just going to go with that.
Nice.
So with Nunez and Haaland, neither are perfect. I mean, Haaland, what was it, 40% of Dortmund's games he missed due to injury? He could easily have a Varane situation in English football. He got really upset at Dortmund doctors who said he had an ankle problem. He didn't like that. And I noticed Darwin Nunez 2 weeks ago retweeting stuff about the criticism that he was taking. This is a guy in his first season in Benfica shut down all the social media because of criticism. And Liverpool's a great club. If things are going well, you'll get support like nothing. But if he's not doing well, the pendulum swings heavily the other way. The criticism will be unbelievable. How does he handle that mentally? Those are question marks. Look, I think Haaland, if he stays fit, he's scored goals everywhere he's been. I would expect he would do the same in England. But Harry Kane to me is the obvious one that stands out because we're talking about the three strikers we just talked about. He's the only one Premier League experience and knows what is coming. I hope it's not Harry Kane because I think that would mean Spurs would finish top four. As far as my cup predictions in relation to United, if United aren't looking at one of those three cups, the League Cup, the FA Cup, or the Europa League as a realistic opportunity, then what is Ten Hag doing now? Because two of those trophies won't be a priority, at least one of them anyway, for the top clubs. Right? I mean, no one really cares. The big clubs are on target in League Cups, but United need to win these types of trophies to get back to winning the bigger trophies. This is about cementing belief that they can be successful. So I think realistically, they should be expecting to win one of those three trophies, and I think that's a reasonable expectation. As far as which player will stand out this season, I have a really strong feeling that Jaden Sanchez is going to have a fantastic season this year. I think I've really liked what I've seen from him in pre-season, and I really feel like United he'll benefit from having I know he picked up an injury, but he'll benefit. I think he suits the way Ten Hag plays. He's quick, he's technical. He's not the quickest in terms of speed, but if you look at the way he played in Dortmund, I think that United will play similar to that. So I have a feeling he'll have a really, really good season. And I think it's also a bit unfair sometimes with the criticism of Martial where, he's mentally weak. Martial carried Van Gaal's team in his first season in many ways, right? So we could see, and we talked about Mo Salah. Mo Salah was the same age when he went to Liverpool. Anthony Martial is, Eric Cantona was the same age that Anthony Martial is when he came to Manchester United, 25, 26. And the right place, right time. I'm not comparing them as players. I'm just saying you get the right environment. Everything is right. You can get the best out of him. And there's a 20 goal a season in Martial, just like there was 2 years ago under Solskjaer. I think that's in him. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see Jaden Sanchez and Anthony Martial have fantastic seasons this season.
No, I agree.
Least impressive. I've already mentioned him. And I really have concerns, and I think Varane could be a real disappointment this season because I just have question marks as to whether he's suited to English football. I don't see his injury record improving next season. I don't see any of that, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
Interesting. And Serge, finally, with yourself, wrap it up.
So I think Golden Boot, it's either going to be one of three. It's going to be Harry Kane, Mo Salah, or Son Heung-min Son, whatever his name is.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a good call, that is Son. Son's a good call, actually. I
just think they're all fantastic, and I think they're all going to score a lot of goals. So it could be any of them. In terms of cup predictions, United have got to go for one of the cups, as Phil said. That's got to be a minimum this season, top 4 and a domestic title of some sort. So whether that's the FA or I don't even know what it's called anymore. Changes name every year.
Carabao Cup,
is it still the Carabao Cup?
Carabao Cup, yeah, something
Mickey Mouse Cup, yeah. Listen, I'd be happy to win anything. We've won the Bangkok Cup, so that's we could do the double this year. Which player will be our standout player? Again, I was going to say what Phil said. I was going to say Jaden Sanchez. Loved what he's done pre-season. I think he could really be a standout player this year for us. I think suits the Ten Hag way of start of play, and I think who will be least impressive. I think that's probably, in my opinion, I don't want to say it, but I think it could be Shaw. I think he really struggles with injuries, and he's injured again. He didn't play last couple of games. I think you'll find Malachians play probably more than Shaw this year. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully Shaw has a great season. I like Shaw. I think he's a great player. I just think he's just made of glass, and he's always injured. So yeah, I have concerns over him. So I think he will be least impressive, as well as obviously Varane. But I didn't want to say the same, so I'm not sure.
Guys, we've done just over an hour and 16 minutes, so I think I'll wrap it up now. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. It really has. Thanks very much for your time. Where can our viewers find you and interact with you guys? See you on YouTube, join your channels, etc. Listen to you on the radio. Where can they find you guys?
Mike, go ahead.
Yep, I'll go first. So obviously my Twitter handle is just here, but also I'm a big part of the Muppetiers at Muppetiers. If you guys don't know about us, we obviously try and get United transfer news and info out first. We have a massive Twitter page, but also we do a lot of videos on YouTube. We have things called Daily Muppets where one of the other guys, James, does a lot of stuff. He does a lot of daily updates, and then we've had a lot of interviews with people. We had Rafa Honigstein on recently. We've got a lot more lined up, so give us a follow on there. And yeah,
Serge.
Much like Mike, obviously my Twitter is there. There we go. That's right. Forget it's a mirror. So yeah, that's my Twitter handle. I also I'm a part of Stretty News, so follow at Stretty News, which is run by Dale, and also Stretty News TV, and also our podcast. We've just done a podcast tonight with Jack Gorn of the Mail, and we've got some good stuff coming up as well. And that's the Mancunian Way, at the Mancunian Way. The second podcast will be released tomorrow at 7 a.m. on Spotify. Give us a follow.
Excellent. And finally, Phil.
Yes, you could find me at an AA meeting near you anywhere soon. You get just at Malachians on Twitter if you're unlucky enough to follow me. I apologize. 3 things that are the most, obviously 95% United. The other 2 things that matter most to me are boxing and mental health. So big proponent of mental health. So want to thank everyone who's supported some of the initiatives that I've done on social media. Really, really grateful to that, and honestly, really grateful to all people that follow me and interact with me and support what I do. Highly recommend these gentlemen. The United Muppetiers podcast is fantastic. James is excellent. I'm really great to do this with Mike for the first time. Serge, excellent stuff. So these guys and yourself, obviously, Stu, well worth the follow. It's always a privilege for me to do this. So much love to all fellow United fans. So thank you so much for having me on, boys. And it's been great to do this. Well, all 3 of you, thank you.
No, absolute pleasure. Before we go, we've got to congratulate the Lionesses. I must admit, I was quite emotional when it happened tonight. I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing, and I just hope Gareth Southgate looks at long and hard in himself over the next couple of months and puts a team together worthy of emulating what those girls have done today. If you don't watch women's football, I implore you to go and try it. I really do. Manchester United play at Lee Sports Village. It was £6 to get in last season. And, go and support the girls. Go and support as much football as you possibly can. Listen to or watch AFU WFC. there'll be a preview show or a preview show, review show on tomorrow night with regards to the Lionesses winning. But I do implore you guys, if you love football like we all do, please just go and watch a women's match. They need your support, you know. So congratulations to the Lionesses. As I say, I did shed a tear. 1966. I wasn't born then, believe it or not, but that's the last time we won something. Guys,
Brilliant to see
thank
their
you.
attendances too. The attendances have been excellent. The game is really, really great. If you look at the average attendance versus 10 years ago today, it's unbelievable. So it's so great to see that.
I think it was 85,000 today. I think Manchester United normally get around 4,000 or 5,000, but you know, you can increase that. It's a great day out, women's football. It's so
Absolutely
strong
brilliant.
now. So I just hope that, you know, the FA or maybe even the Premier League get behind it a bit more moving forward now. I think today's been a pivotal point for women's football, and you know, the way that we are in the world today, we've just got to get behind these girls. It's I feel quite proud. I feel very, very patriotic tonight. So excellent, guys. Thanks again. It's been a privilege, you know, working with you guys and hosting you guys tonight. It's my first time hosting, so I hope I haven't upset anyone tonight. So thank you again, guys. I'll see you
lads.
soon.
Thank you, boys. Be safe.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.